Sales are down 6.3% and average prices are down 7.1%. But we're seeing bidding wars. How does that make sense? Last month's real estate stats came out, and it's creating confusion for sellers and buyers as we move into the spring market, which is typically the busiest period in real estate. If you're a seller or a buyer, you want to watch this video so you don't end up on the wrong side of the statistics. I'll break down the numbers to make sense for your situation. My name is Nawar Naji, and I've been helping clients buy and sell in Toronto since 2015. When the time is right for you, click on the link below to book a call with me. All right, let's get into the data. So what I'll do is I'll start with the macro level. So this is the full Toronto Real Estate Regional Board. And as you can see here in the first chart, it covers a wide geographical area, which includes 7 regions. And they're listed here on the right side: Dufferin, Durham, Halton, Peel, Toronto, Simcoe, and York. So that's a very large geographic area. So keep that in mind. When we look at the statistics released, it's giving the full region, and I will show you why it's important to really drill down to the micro level and neighborhood level to understand the stats. Because if you look at the overall picture, as you can see here, the sales were down 6.3% compared to last February 2025. So we had 3,868 versus 4,127. So less homes transacted this past February compared to 2025. And everything is pretty much down if you look across the board. The number of new listings coming to market was less, which is a good thing, and I'll explain in a second. The active listings were down slightly. It's pretty close, 19,000 and change, so we'll call that even. And the average price was down from last February. If you recall, in January, it dipped under $1 million, but this February, it's back up to slightly over $1 million. However, it's still down compared to February 2025. And then if you look at the listings and property days on market, both those numbers went up because sales were down, went up to 36 days. And then the property, which accounts for cancellations and relisting, was up to 54 days to sell a specific property. Now, again, this is for the full region. Going back to the numbers here, if sales drop by 6% and then the new listings drop by, 17.7, so almost 18%, that is a good thing because there's less new supply coming, which hopefully moving into the spring market will translate into higher absorption rate. However, we do need sales figures to go up to absorb what's available, to absorb the active listings that are available on the market. So we'll see how that's going to play out moving into the busiest period of the year, which is typically March, April, May, and a good chunk of June. We'll see how if buyers come out, because they've pretty much been sitting on the sidelines for the last couple of months. Now, moving down to the GTA. So this is Toronto 905, and I'll just look at the 416 because that's where I focus. Again, if you look here, the average detached was 1.568. The semis were 1.23, and then the condos are a 663. So one thing I like to look at is the elasticity. So the gap between condos to townhomes to detached. So in this case, you're looking at 660 to 1.2. So that's almost double, $600,000 difference. And then the gap between semis and detached is about $300,000. So that's interesting to see because eventually, as all the completions come to market for the condo market, we should see things pick up moving forward into towards the end of hopefully this year into next year to transact more condos as buyers come back into the market. If you look at the average prices, everything's down compared to last year. So detached 11.4% down, semis 4.6, and then condos are 8.1. So again, it's just prices are coming down overall, but that is not a true indicator of the market health, because if we look at specific pockets, you'll see that there, and I'll show you here, is you'll see that there are activities where some of those neighborhoods are actually selling over asking. Before I get into that, I'll show you the 416 detached. So for the city of Toronto, this is the 416 only. The months of inventory is 4 months, which is a balanced market. 4 to 6 months is balanced. Under 4 is sellers, and above 6 is buyers territory. So 25 out of 100 homes are selling, which means 75 are being relisted or price adjusted or just sitting on the market longer for them to sell. The average price was 1.568 and the median is 1.215 for the detached. This is the Toronto Real Estate Board map of the city of Toronto, and it doesn't really exactly make sense because it's not square blocks, but it does break down the specific neighborhoods. And what I want to show you here is you got the central core, then you have west of Dufferin to the end of Etobicoke, and then east of the DVP all the way to the end of Scarborough. That's pretty much how the city is broken down into west, central, and east. Now, going back to what I said is we're seeing sales are down, average prices are down. However, we're seeing bidding wars, and that is the case. 1 and West 2, which is Hyde Park, Swansea, Roncesvalles. There, houses were selling, detached houses were selling 5 to 6% over asking in bidding wars, and they were taking 10 to 14 days in order to sell. On the flip side, if you go to the east side on the beaches, Woodbine corridor, detached houses were selling 7% over asking in 9 days. So again, this is where it's important to really break down the data of specific neighborhood, because as you can see here, there are neighborhoods that are competitive with high demand. Buyers are looking for those houses and they're willing to pay over the advertised listing price. Moving to the semi-detached in the 416, this is a good product that trades fairly quickly because it is the transition from condos to detached houses, and there aren't that many. So we got just over 2 months of inventory, just about half, 46 out of the 100 homes are sold in that month, and the average price is 1,229 with a median of 1.1. So in this case too, I'm showing you two pockets, the Junction Dover Court, which the semis sold 13% over asking in 17 days. And then if you go to the east side, Riverdale, Blake Jones, that's selling 16% over ask in 6 days. So again, specific pockets, there is demand. There are buyers looking for a good product, good homes to move into in the city in the 416. So do not blanket the stats to cover the whole city or the whole region, because specific neighborhoods behave differently. Now, the condo market in the city is slow. There's a lot of supply. There is activity, which is, we'll see if that's going to translate into further momentum moving into the spring and summer months of 2026. But right now it's 6 months of inventory, so it's balanced. And again, larger units, 2 bedrooms or 1+10 with parking, that is selling if priced decently. And the challenge is in the smaller bachelor, junior 1 bedrooms or very small 1 bedrooms with no parking, tenanted. Those type of products tend to sit on the market and are difficult to sell. The average price is $664 with a median of $575. So if you are a tenant, and if you look at your monthly rent, and this is analysis that I'm happy to help with, look at your rent that you're paying on a monthly basis versus can you get into the market with whatever down payment you have. The minimum is 5% on the first 500 and then 10% on the difference. So if you buy a condo for 600,000, you will need 5% on the 500, which is $25,000, and then 10% on that 100,000, which is 10 grand. So you'll need $35,000 minimum to buy a place. So this is where you do the numbers analysis. Does it make sense to stop paying rent and own a condo to get into the housing market? And this is, again, analysis we can work on together. This right here is the overall condo market in the 416. So it covers North York, downtown, and all of the west end when you get into the Hyde Park, the south Etobicoke by the lake, and the east end as well. What I want to show you here is specifically the core, and the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board labels it as C1 and C8. So CO1 is west of Yonge to Dufferin up to Bloor, and then CO8 is Yonge to the DVP to Bloor down to the lake. If I break down the central condos, and you can see there's, even as we get into deeper into smaller neighborhoods or areas, the stats do differ. So west of Yonge, there were 197 condos sold last month. The average price was 745, and it took 42 days to sell at 97% of asking price. Now, that's the last asking price. The reason I say that is a condo could have been listed, for example, at 800, then reduced to 750, then reduced to 700, and then is sold at 97% of 700. That's the stats that is reported to the Toronto Regional Boards. So it took 42 days at 97% of the last asking price for condos west of Yonge to sell. When you go east of Yonge, so this is Canary District, Regent Park, Distillery, Corktown, 103 condos sold at 665 average. So there's $80,000 discount when you go east of Yonge. And it took a little bit longer. It took 51 days at 96% of the final asking price. So what I want to leave with is, if you're a seller or a buyer, it really depends on your neighborhood. So again, if you're in the condo market, if you're west of Yonge, east of Yonge, if you own a semi-detached, whether it's in Riverdale or High Park, if you own a detached, depending on the pocket. So it really depends on your local neighborhood, specific neighborhood, is how you price your home to be sold, to be on the positive side of the statistics, where it's one of those sales and hopefully you can get multiple offers if it shows very well and it priced according to the market. So this is where you got to drill deep into the stats and look at your specific neighborhood street by street and see what happened there to understand how the best way to price it. Now, if you're a buyer, you have to understand the same stats and say, okay, if I am entering into a competitive neighborhood, such as the Junction, such as High Park, then you have to be aware of the market conditions and what price are you willing to pay to get that specific property. Because although the general stats might show prices are down 7%, 6% sales and all that stuff, but the neighborhoods you're looking at might be competitive. So this is something you need to understand to position yourself in a way to get the property you're looking to get into. Should you buy a home in 2026? Take a look at this video where I discuss the 3 groups who I believe should be buying this year and not wait any longer. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.